Well, I don't think there's any question he's a ways off. Chip Kelly mentioned last week that the next step would be, moving from individual drills to team drills. He was able to do that today, but very, very, I think I counted 4 or 5 reps that he was on 7 and 7. So clearly he's not ready. He's not 100%. They haven't, Mark Sanchez is still running with the number ones. And they tried to get his feet wet today a little bit, but he's far off, and I don't think that's a surprise. I don't think the Eagles expected him to be ready till sometime in August, and I think that's still the thought process. But, anybody that was saying he looks ready to go or anything like that, I don't know if anyone said that, but that's certainly, far from the truth.
As you chronicle in your piece over at sportsnetwork.com, he's either a legitimate franchise quarterback who's had some terrible luck, or a player destined to go down as a disappointment. When you saw him at camp, which one does he look closer to?
Well, when I saw him at camp, he looks like an injured guy, so we can't really make that determination. The guy I saw in St. Louis, to be blunt, was not a franchise quarterback. And, people have made excuses for Sam Bradford, and they've talked about the porous offensive lines, the lack of skill position players he had at times. But, I look at the great quarterbacks in this league, and I mentioned them. Peyton Manning, you basically, as I stated, it's a Peyton Manning led team. It's their birthright to win 10 games, and then you move on from there. In other words, they're going to be in double digits. Same thing with Tom Brady. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. He had one hiccup the year after replacing Brett Favre, then it was off to the races. So the fact, the thing that defines great quarterbacks more than anything else is the fact that they make everyone around them that much better. I didn't see that from Sam Bradford in St. Louis. But, he's got the pedigree. He's got that, the resume, the number 1 overall pick. And people look at it and they look at the skill set and say, I can tap into this. Maybe Chip Kelly can. I didn't see evidence of him being that guy in St. Louis.
John McMullen is the NFL editor, sportsnetwork.com. He joins us here on the Sports Bash. Chip Kelly said he's not 100% confident in anything, but how much is riding on Sam Bradford being healthy? Shouldn't he be pretty close to 100% sure that this guy's going to be ready for him?
Well, that's one of those Chip-isms, and, he'll contradict himself at times, and, he tries to come up with witty stuff. And, he's just saying nothing's certain in this world. We all know that. We all wake up every morning and something could happen. You don't assume that. And that's what he was sort of trying to spin it as. You're not 100% on anything. But there's no question by the fact that, he gave up the starting quarterback of this team and a second-round pick for Sam Bradford. So at the bare minimum, he thinks he's a better option than Nick Foles. And we can argue that. But, then you look at what happened around the draft and the fact that no matter what he says, he went all in to acquire Marcus Mariota. And we all know how much Chip likes him as a player. So that doesn't necessarily say that he doesn't trust Sam Bradford. It was just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire the guy that he thinks can run this offense better than anyone else. But he's put all his eggs in the Sam Bradford basket. He can talk all he wants about Mark Sanchez. We kind of know what Mark Sanchez is. Tim Tebow is not relevant whatsoever. Don't let anybody blow smoke about that. And obviously Matt Barkley's not going to be in this equation. So the hope for the Philadelphia Eagles, the hope for Chip Kelly is that Sam Bradford's 100% in September, and he's their starting quarterback.
John, obviously Bradford is a guy. It sounded like, you were there when he spoke, and did he sound like a guy who was unsure of his own ability to get back out there? Did he sound like a guy who just didn't have the answers of when he's going to be ready? I mean, a lot of times when you're hurt and you say, you know what, I'm okay, I'll be back there in 2-3 weeks, I'll be fine. Did he sound like a guy who was still unsure of when he's going to be ready?
A little bit. And I think that stems from the fact that he has back-to-back now ACL tears. So there's going to be doubt creeping into anyone's mind. And, I've talked to James Andrews, and that's one thing he always mentions. That's maybe the bigger hurdle than the actual physical rehab when you come back from an ACL tear, is the fact that you have to get over that mental hump. And then you add Sam Bradford, it's back-to-back years. So there has to be some doubt in his mind. And you heard that report earlier in the offseason that he contemplated retiring. He contemplated walking away because he had already been through that once, and he had to go through it again. So it's a devastating injury for guys playing this game, and some people tackle it and they handle it very well. We always talk about Adrian Peterson coming back and having his MVP season off a torn ACL, so it can be done. But sure, there's some doubt, and until he gets on the field and until he gets hit, he's not going to be able to get over that in May in 7-on-7s when nobody has any pads on. So I think that's something you have to keep an eye on, but the Eagles are hopeful that he's going to be ready.
Obviously there's Mark Sanchez here, and he got his opportunity last year. The question was, did he grab it? I think the answer by most people would be no, but have you seen a different Mark Sanchez than the one who was left floundering at the end of last season, couldn't throw the ball down the field, and obviously couldn't get this team to the playoffs? Many people wrote him off, but does he look like a different, stronger quarterback?
Well, he's always, he's a year off the shoulder injury now, so I think he's more confident. He feels healthy. He obviously feels more comfortable in the system. I know he mentioned he's very excited because even coming off the injury, he set a career high for completion percentage. So he feels very good and very confident. And obviously, if you talk about his pedigree, he's also a top 5 pick. So it's not like he doesn't have the skill set to play this position in the NFL. He certainly does. The question with Mark Sanchez has always been, and it ended up being the question here last year, is the fact that he makes poor decisions at big moments of the game. And that hasn't changed throughout his career. And that's where some of the doubt creeps in when you talk about the coaching side of things. And people look at Mark Sanchez, and they've never seen any evidence that that's going to change. Now, I think there's two ways to frame it. If you look at him as a backup quarterback, I think he's one of the better backups in football. I mean, let's face it. If your starting quarterback goes down and Mark Sanchez is going to come in, that's pretty good. But if you're expecting him to start 16 games and lead you deep into the playoffs, I don't think any coach in the NFL would be comfortable with that.
I know they say he's on schedule. Does he look like a quarterback on schedule? Does he look like a guy that on the second week of September, Monday Night Football, is going to be playing against an NFL defense?
You're talking about Bradford. I think he will be ready.
Yeah, I am talking about Bradford, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's the time frame. And if you look at it, and basically the average time of people coming off ACL, that's when he should be ready. So I don't take much stock in the fact. I would say the fact that he was out there for 7-on-7s indicates to me he's a little bit ahead of schedule. Because again, we're talking about June 1st. It's not, as Chip says, we're not playing a game tomorrow. If we were, Mark Sanchez would be the starting quarterback. There's no question he's not ready now. But the big question is, will he be ready in September? I think he seems to be on schedule, and the fact that he's able to throw the football and able to move around at least to the level he has been, I think that's a positive.
And obviously, this is his last opportunity. I mean, here's another question. This would be, I guess, his last opportunity, although I'm sure somebody always looks at your talent and says, I can save him, I can get that one last shot. But what if, for some reason, he doesn't play in the preseason? Do they just throw him out there in game number 1? Or, I mean, how does that work in your opinion?
No, I don't think there's any question. I don't think you'll see him week 1 or week 2. They'll try to get him ready for week 3 in the preseason. You have to see if the rust is off. You have to at least get him into that game, and that he would be online to start week 1. If he's not able to do that, I think, then you have to start shifting your mentality and start getting Mark Sanchez ready for week 1. But I think that's always been their plan. Maybe, a series or 2 if he's ready before that in week 1 or week 2 of the postseason. But clearly, you're going to be seeing a lot of Matt Barkley and a lot of Tim Tebow. And that's natural. That's the way the NFL has been going. Since the new CBA came into effect, you want to almost put your quarterbacks in bubble wrap and just have them ready for week 1. And I think that's how the Eagles will approach it. I don't think they're going to push hard to get him, tons and tons of snaps in the preseason.
John, a lot of the optimism around the Eagles who are fans of this move, look at the guy who was the number 1 pick. They see a guy who did not have a lot of talent around him, played in a similar style of offense in Oklahoma, but he was 18-30-1 as a starter in the NFL. Why the lack of success when he was healthy? I mean, I know he's been hurt, but 18-30-1, is that him? Is it not a lot of talent around him? What has Bradford's career been when he's been on the field?
Well, that's my biggest concern. You hit the nail on the head. The guy just has not won football games. And as I mentioned before, the truly great quarterbacks in this league, no matter the supporting cast, they're going to find a way to win football games. And, it's no crime to measure yourself against whoever, Peyton Manning, as we said, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and come up short against those guys. But if you're going to be talking about a franchise quarterback, that's the names you have to bring up. And to be perfectly blunt, I cannot imagine a Manning-led team, a Brady-led team, a Rodgers-led team ever being 18-30-1, no matter the supporting cast, because that's how high the level is that they're playing at. And it's just like, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's sort of what great quarterbacks do. And Sam Bradford didn't do that in St. Louis. And that, to me, is the bigger concern than the injuries. Obviously, that's a big deal, and you have to come back. But we've had so many medical advancements. He's going to be cleared to play. I'm confident in that. I'm confident in the fact that he's going to be healthy by week 1. What I'm not confident of is the fact that this guy can be an elite-level quarterback in the NFL. I've seen no evidence of that when he has been healthy.
Strong stuff from John, and obviously, John, the Eagles are banking on you being wrong.
It wouldn't be the first time. And obviously, Chip's very comfortable and very confident in his ability to get people ready to play at a high level. My concern with Chip Kelly is the fact that he had a guy playing at a high level. It's at times higher than at other times. And clearly, for whatever reason, he was never enamored with Nick Foles' abilities. But if you look at the one-loss record of Nick Foles here, it's damn good under Chip Kelly. So my question had always been, why are you throwing that away? Why are you trying to fix something that wasn't broken just to find, something that maybe isn't there? And the fact that you're looking at a guy, sure, Sam Bradford has a stronger arm than Nick Foles. Sure, at least before the injuries, he had more mobility. There's no question he had a better skill set. That's the difference between being the number 1 overall pick and a third-round pick. But that doesn't necessarily – we've seen it time and time again in the NFL draft. We don't have to bring up Tom Brady was the 199th pick or Joe Montana was the third-round pick. Just because you're picked first in April doesn't mean you're going to end up as a better player. For whatever reason, Chip Kelly's enamored with that skill level, and that's a part I'm not sure I understand.
John, Adrian Peterson returned to the Vikings. Who blinked here?
Well, Adrian Peterson, and he's not the first one to blink. Anyone who's met Mike Zimmer knows he's a no nonsense guy. He's an intimidating guy. He's a guy that doesn't put up with a lot, And when he went to OTAs last week and he said, basically, Adrian's going to play for us or he's not going to play. And that's it. And that was the end of the sentence. And Adrian Peterson, he had tried every avenue to get out of Minneapolis and to get out of playing with the Vikings because he was upset with the organization. His agent, Ben Dahlgren, did everything humanly possible. He even got in a near fist fight with the Vikings cap guy, Rob Brzezinski in Indianapolis. And it didn't work because the Vikings weren't going to give him away. And the bottom line is, either make $12.75 million or sit at home and make nothing. And that's a pretty easy decision to make.
John McMullen, the NFL editor at sportsnetwork.com, NFL 100 days away. Wes Welker has no home. Will he play in 2015?
Well, if he's going to pay, it's obviously, going to be at a much reduced rate. And that's the thing. You see, you always have these veteran players who, think a lot more highly of their value on the open market than NFL teams do. Obviously, Wes Welker has this tremendous resume, maybe one of the best slot receivers that ever played the game. But at his age and the fact that he has so many concussion issues and you have to add that into the equation, he's not going to get a big deal. It's going to be a one-year deal. And if he wants that and if he wants to play and if he's willing to accept that, certainly somebody's going to make a home for him because he can still play. The only question is, is he going to temper some of his demands?
Should be interesting to see where he ends up. He said he'd be open to going back to the New England Patriots. We'll see if they're interested in bringing him back. John McMullen's the NFL editor, sportsnetwork.com. We're 100 days until the kickoff of the NFL football season. The mini camp's going to be here in a couple of weeks, and then the NFL training camps open. And when they do and stories emerge, we'll talk to John and check out sportsnetwork.com for more on the NFL. John, always a pleasure, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.